Anonymous reveals, "We are anonymous. We are not a party, not a flag, not a government mouthpiece. We speak when power turns arrogance into policy and chaos into spectacle. And right now, that is exactly what the world is watching." This story begins with Donald Trump, once again acting like the rules of global security are just another reality show, said he can tear apart whenever the cameras are rolling. In the original report, Fox says Trump sent what it called a strong message to countries that rely on the Strait of Hormuz for oil, demanding that world leaders step up and help defend it. Reporter Matt Finn, speaking live from Dubai, said the United Arab Emirates claimed Iran had launched more than 2,000 drone attacks and 438 cruise missiles at that country since the war began, and that the UAE had actually taken more incoming fire from Iran than Israel. He added that explosions had been heard in the sky there over the past couple of days. Then came Trump's message. The United States, he said, imports almost no oil through the Strait of Hormuz and will not be taking any in the future. America does not need it, has not needed it, and does not need it now. The countries that do receive oil through that passage, he argued, must take care of it, must cherish it, and while the U.S. would be helpful, they should take the lead in protecting the oil they so desperately depend on. That was the setup. Then the deeper threat emerged. A White House official told Fox that NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte would meet with Trump in Washington the following week, and that meeting was framed against Trump, warning that he was considering pulling the United States out of NATO after what the report called Operation Epic Fury. Reuters also reported Trump saying that when asked if he was thinking about pulling out of NATO, he answered, "Oh, absolutely, without question. Wouldn't you do that if you were me?" That is the moment the UK Prime Minister hit back. In the clip, he said NATO is the single most effective military alliance the world has ever seen, that it has kept Britain and its allies safe for many decades, and that the UK is fully committed to NATO. He went on to say that whatever the pressure on him and others, whatever the noise, he would act in the British national interest in all the decisions he makes. And that, right there, was the rebuke. Calm on the surface, but unmistakable underneath. Because when Trump toys with NATO, he is not just throwing out another impulsive line for attention. He is threatening the credibility of the alliance that has underpinned European and transatlantic security since 1949. An alliance British leaders have repeatedly described as the most successful in history. Public reporting this week shows European leaders were alarmed by Trump's mixed signals on NATO and Iran, while Mark Rutte's expected Washington visit underscored how serious the rupture had become. Back in the report, Matt Finn then said that on the ground in the Middle East, Trump was declaring that the United States would hit all of America's military objectives in Iran extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then the segment shifted to central Israel, where sirens were reportedly heard as Iran fired a barrage of missiles during Passover Seder week. Trump then made a promise to U.S. allies in the Middle East, thanking Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain, saying they had been great, and that the United States would not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form. He said that because of the actions America had taken, the world was on the cusp of ending what he called Iran's sinister threat to America and the world, and added that the world was watching. Then Fox turned to retired Air Force Brigadier General and former White House National Security Council Senior Director Robert Spalding, asked where the conflict stood. Spalding said he thought they were mostly done, but added that near the tail end of any conflict, the remaining targets are hard to find, so there would have to be a heavy intelligence effort to locate the pieces that had been missed, and that the conflict could continue beyond the 2 weeks Trump had mentioned. Fox then raised the visible troop movements. An aircraft carrier, at least 2,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne, and about 5,000 Marines. The host asked what kind of mission those forces would be on, pointing out that troops do not just arrive and improvise. Spaulding said they could be preparing for a recovery operation to secure enriched uranium. He explained that 60% enriched uranium is only a couple of weeks away from weapons-grade material and could become a deadly weapon in the hands of terrorists, so securing that material would be a high priority, and could explain why those troops had been positioned forward. The segment then laid out what it called 2 objectives: keep the strait open and get the uranium out. The host said that if both were attempted, the U.S. might have to set up its own perimeter, move in with heavy equipment, send personnel into a dangerous environment, face possible radiation exposure, and deal with potential booby traps while also carrying out an operation to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Asked whether both could be done at the same time, Spaulding said yes, but added that the challenge, as Trump had articulated it, was that nobody had really helped the United States. He went further and said that if Washington was going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, it ought to be done for the U.S. national interest, and that he would even consider charging a fee to Europe, China, and everyone else benefiting from the oil flowing through it. Then came Trump again, boasting about what Iran supposedly had become because of his decision. He said America was on track to complete all of its military objectives shortly, very shortly, that the U.S. would hit Iran extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks, bring it back to the Stone Ages where it belonged, and that the country had been eviscerated and was essentially no longer a threat. He said Iran had been the bully of the Middle East, but was the bully no longer. Asked whether Iran was no longer the bully of the Middle East, Spaulding said its offensive capability had certainly been taken away, that it had essentially been neutered, but warned that it could still conduct terrorist activities, and that pressure on the regime would need to continue in the coming years to break it up and prevent future terrorist activity, meaning the U.S. might have to go back again. Then Fox brought up Dennis Ross, noting he had served 5 presidents of both parties, and said Ross believed that if the U.S. left the next day, the Iranian regime would not last 10 months because of what would be left behind. Spaulding agreed, saying the regime was struggling to control the country, that factions were already developed, saying that there was infighting going on whether or not the administration was talking to anyone, and that Iran would likely fracture, with the Kurds probably moving in to take some of the territory they wanted, leaving Iran a chaotic place, like Iraq, after Saddam left. The interview ended with thanks to General Robert Spaulding for his insight. All of that comes directly from your source text, and I have kept FSO every asdo. Now here is what Anonymous sees in all of this. Trump was not behaving like a steady commander protecting an alliance. He was behaving like a gambler, furious that other countries would not automatically absorb the risks of his confrontation, while he dangled the possible destruction of NATO as leverage. That is why the British response mattered. The UK Prime Minister did not just defend NATO in abstract language. He pushed back against the childish blackmail behind Trump's posture. The message was simple. Britain will act in its own national interest, not according to the mood swings, ego trips, or tantrums of a U.S. president who treats alliances like protection rackets. Other public reporting shows this was not an isolated concern, as Trump lashed out over Allied reluctance to support military action connected to Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. European leaders moved to reaffirm NATO rather than follow him into another spiral of instability. The broader reaction suggests they saw exactly what was happening. Trump was injecting uncertainty into an already dangerous crisis, raising doubts about U.S. reliability, just as energy markets, regional security, and alliance credibility were all under strain. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. We are not here to entertain power, and we are not here to flatter the men who abuse it. We are here to expose it. When leaders gamble with alliances, threaten entire regions, and dress chaos up as strength, we will be here to call it exactly what it is: